Welcome to the From Concealment Podcast, the show for firearm enthusiasts who like to shoot, train, carry, and compete. Get ready for some shooting insight, firearm and accessory reviews, and of course, insight on concealed carry. And now, broadcasting from behind enemy lines in the From Concealment studio, it's Pete Mitchell and Dan Sams.
Hey, Freedom Nation, this is Pete Mitchell.
And this is Dan Sams.
And you are listening to the From Concealment Podcast. And on this particular episode, it's being brought to you by FastOC. FastOC.com is a great resource if you are looking for any training and you happen to be in the Orange County type area here in Southern California, LA, Riverside. We've got actually a ton of people who come from San Diego. I do as many of their handgun challenges as I possibly can do. I love them. I have so much fun. And honestly, it helps me get better and train for the event that I might one day have to use in a high adrenaline situation, which is actually going to be our topic today. So anyway, you can check them all out at fastoc.com and see the classes that they got. Sign up for a class, take one. You'll probably see me at a handgun challenge. I just don't have as much time as I'd like to get over to their training classes, but definitely worthwhile, and check them out.
All right.
So, Dan, how you been lately, man?
You know what? I'm doing pretty good, man. Doing pretty good. The weather is still a little chilly where I'm at, but it's breaking enough. I can get outside and do a little bit of shooting every now and then, and feeling good about that. Yeah, I'm doing well.
That's funny, man. I forget that some parts of the country actually have to plan things around the weather.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it doesn't stop me from shooting. It just means that my fingers get colder than they normally would.
Right.
Doesn't stop me at all.
Yeah. So it got an interesting topic for today's podcast.
Yeah.
Here over the weekend, it was reported, so I'm not sure what day it happened. I actually don't have the article up in front of me. I know you do, Dan. We had a guy, a homeowner, and I believe it was Anaheim, California, who sees someone breaking into his car on his security camera. He goes out there clearly with his firearm, and something goes down. We don't know much. He shoots the guy. The guy dies either on the way to the hospital or at the hospital. He succumbs to the injuries and dies. 20-year-old, I believe it was, kid. And I mean, this is one of those tragic situations, right? So my assistant Wayne and I, we were actually talking about this thing right before we got on the podcast, because you and I don't like to see people get shot and die over stuff.
Yeah.
Right? Stealing stuff. I mean, someone goes, maybe he wasn't going to steal the car. Maybe he was just going to break in and see if there was anything in the car. I mean, it definitely feels like a violation when that happens to you.
Yeah.
A couple of years back, I went out to my car one day, and my wife would never lock the doors. I don't know what it is, but she just wouldn't. And I go out there and I see my glove box is open. Everything's been rummaged through. The center console's been rummaged through. I mean, I live in a really nice neighborhood. So I'm like, okay, I'm pretty sure I know what neighbor kids it is, because there's not that many neighbor kids who would actually do it. And I just don't believe that there's someone roaming around Rossmore looking for cars to break into. Like, it just doesn't happen here.
Yeah.
So it absolutely feels like a violation. I get that. And we don't know what went down. We don't know if the guy threatened him, if the guy felt threatened. In fact, it says he's cooperating with police. It almost made it sound like in the article that, he wasn't arrested. Mm-hmm. Like, that's a bad thing. Like, the guy should have been arrested because he was just, breaking into the car. And of course, that's a very California, thing. You should never shoot anyone, never defend yourself. You should be the one that dies.
Yeah.
But we don't know, right? We don't know what went down. We don't know if the guy felt threatened. We don't know what. So what you say in those moments after to a police officer are extremely important. In fact, we should actually bring in, I got some lawyers who do firearms law. We should actually bring in some of them to talk about this. So I'll give you some of my opinions. And guys, please understand, I am not a lawyer. I don't even pretend to be one on the internet. So any of my thoughts are just meant for entertainment purposes only.
Yes.
You can do with it as you'd like. But I do have conceal carry insurance. I'm a big believer in that, especially because I live in California. And I know if I ever had to use, I got a legal problem, right? I'm either getting sued by, or the police are arresting me, or I'm getting sued by the family, or both, right? I mean, either way. So I have the max that I can get, right? It costs about $500 a year. I honestly couldn't even tell you the name of the company I'm with. I've been with a couple of different ones over the years. But the thing that they advise, and I totally agree with this, is first of all, know your rights. Know that, number one, you do not have to answer any questions.
Exactly right.
Number one. And number two, you actually are not legally required to call 911. Now, that is going to be used against you, right? But they can't legally require it, because if they do, that's a violation of your Fifth Amendment rights. So that's why they don't legally require it, and it is absolutely used against you. So I personally would say, and I've never heard a lawyer say this, but I personally would say, tell someone else, call 911, make sure you tell them there is a good guy, in my case, with red hair with a gun. Do not shoot the good guy. Yeah. There is a good guy, the homeowner, he's there, he's the good guy. So a couple other things that I've been advised is, number one, when the cops say, basically you narrow it down to just a couple of main things. Number one, I feared for my life. Number two, I want that guy arrested. I don't care if the dude is dead, right? You say, I want the guy arrested, because who gets arrested? Bad guys. Yeah. Right. So I want that guy arrested. And besides that, don't play the medical doctor. You're not the coroner. Let someone else figure out that the guy is dead. I don't care if his head is blown off completely. I want that guy arrested. Right. So I feared for my life. I want that guy arrested. Number three, I'm not feeling well. I'm feeling very lightheaded. Please call EMS for me.
There you go.
And that basically means they can't question you until you get medically checked out. And of course, I would follow it up with, if they kept pressing, I'll be happy to give you a full statement after I've consulted with my lawyer.
Yeah. So you're bringing up some important things that are even beyond helpful, because a lot of times one of the first things we say is just don't talk to the cops. Even if you mean well, even if you've done nothing wrong, everything can be used against you. And in those first few moments, they're establishing a narrative in their head about what they think happened. Yep. And man, as respectfully as possible, trying to get a cop to recognize when he is completely wrong is really hard. So you want to establish the narrative fast, so he starts thinking like you're the good guy. That whole, I feared for my life, please arrest that guy. Call for an ambulance. I'm not feeling well. And then, but being helpful, like I'm happy to help you as soon as I've been checked out and talked to my lawyer. But you're part of what you're doing is you're establishing the narrative, and that makes a big difference. The sad reality, we are in a world where people establish an opinion and then they stick to it, no matter how wrong they are or right they are. And so you're controlling the narrative then, and that's an important thing. Honestly, that's what politicians do. And they're masters at it. And so we're going to have to play that game on some of these things.
I mean, then what you do is, like in my case, the company I got, they've actually got a, on my iPhone, you got a thing called a wallet, right? Where you can have all your credit cards and tickets. And so it's CCW Safe. That's who I'm with right now. And when I look on the back of the card, it says here, where is it? I thought they had the thing that you're supposed to say. Oh, crap. I'm not seeing it here. But they've got their phone number. So I actually, in my case, let's say I was alone, I would not call 911. I would actually call them. That would be my thing. I would call them and I'd say, hey, here's the deal. I've been involved in a firearm shooting. Here's my name. Here's my location, because I don't know where they are in the country. I think they're in Texas or something. I'll probably be arrested, obviously. So your guys are going to have to bail me out. And I need you to call 911 for me. Yeah. And make the lawyer call 911. Yeah. and and make sure they know there's a good guy with a gun here. And please, when the cops roll up, do not let them shoot you. Like, no fast moves, no, swinging around with your gun, no, none of that. Mm-hmm. Obey them to the T. They are absolutely going to handcuff you. That's fine. Let them do it. You
just got to roll with it.
Just roll with it. Yeah. I mean, bare minimum, you're going to spend one night in jail. I mean, just assume bare minimum that's what's going to happen. If you happen to not have to, you're one of the lucky few that they actually believed what you were saying enough that they didn't necessarily arrest you there. But like you said, they're not there to prove your innocence. They're there to prove your guilt. Yeah. So don't say anything. Like, just give them the standard. Hey, look, I'm not feeling good. I feared for my life. I want that guy arrested. I'll be happy to talk to you once I've consulted with my attorney. Yeah. And then boom, I've said what I need to say.
It reminds me of, I don't know if you ever saw the video. It was like semi-viral, and it's two lawyers and they're smoking cigars, and they're just looking in the camera with their sunglasses on, just looking cool. And they're like, hey, you get caught with weed? Shut the F up.
Yeah.
And then they're like, hey, maybe such and such happens. They're like, shut the F up. And like, everything is just like, just don't talk.
Yeah. They were like, it's shut the F up Friday. That's what it was. So
that's what it was.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's a little crass, but it is good advice. Like, you can be a bystander and get in trouble because you just started talking and there was a misunderstanding. I remember,
hey, if your spouse is there and they're like, okay, well, he can't talk to us. He wants EMS, blah, blah, blah. Let's go talk to the spouse. Make sure your spouse knows, hey, you know what? After I consult with my attorney, I'll be happy to give you a full statement. Don't let her say anything either, or him. Yeah. Because the reality is you're going to get sued by the family. At least here in California, guarantee it's going to happen. Yeah. And so anything they say to the cop is going to be used in the civil suit. So because she does have a legitimate, or he, if you're a woman and because your spouse has a legitimate financial concern here that they could be sued, don't let them say anything either. Yeah.
Yep. Well, and they don't have to testify against you. There's all these kind of things, like they just don't talk. Don't talk. Yeah. Sad that we're in a situation where that is the reality, but it just is. It's going to get used against you, so you better not to talk. Right. I remember actually a circumstance where I was subpoenaed to give a testimony on something, and I wasn't even the witness. They'd misunderstood. It was my wife who had witnessed, but I'm subpoenaed, so I have to go to this thing. And I remember just talking to a lawyer friend. He's like, everything because you have to talk in a deposition. He's like, everything comes down to yes, no, or I don't recall. Don't say anything else. Don't let them get you talking. But when it's cops, you don't have to say anything. It's, Fifth Amendment, just don't talk. Very, very important. Yeah, so man. So wider issue here is, man, there's so much we don't know about what happened. I'm really curious on this particular circumstance, because it is sad. Like, it's a 20-year-old kid. And yet he could have been threatening. There's all kinds of things we don't know at this point. He might have been a legitimate self-defense situation. It's sad no matter how you cut it. But we don't know. We don't quite know the details.
We don't.
I'm really curious. Yeah,
the guy could have been. I mean, first of all, like you and I have always said, look, it's awful to see someone die over stuff. Stuff can be replaced. It absolutely is a feeling of violation. There's no doubt about it. Mm-hmm. Certainly, breaking into your home is even worse because that's your castle, right? So that's why we have the castle doctrine. Which basically says everybody has the right to protect themselves in their own home. Mm-hmm. Except if you live in California, in which case we're still going to sue you anyway and, haul you off because, why should you protect yourself? But that has more to do with my jacked up state than anything else. Yeah. But we hate to see that. However, here's the thing. You got to always know that if you misbehave, you run the risk of being shot and killed. So on one hand, absolutely, I think it's a huge tragedy. I would hate to see someone die over even a car. I mean, I would. Yeah. But at the end of the day, the dude did something illegal. if the other guy feared for his life, and I don't know, we don't know. The thing is, I mean, what clued him in that someone was breaking into his car is he's got a security camera, and he saw it. So he goes out there. Now, did it record everything that happened? Does the guy lunge at him? What happens? I don't know. I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
Cops are investigating, because it's California. Realistically, he'll be arrested. He hasn't been yet, unless he's very well connected. He is in Anaheim. So Anaheim's it's a big city. There's a lot of rich areas and a lot of really poor areas. If he's in one of the rich areas, he may not get arrested. You wonder, why would that have anything to do with it? It's all political. Everything is political.
Yep.
The DA's got to look at, do we think we can get this guy? Do we have a strong enough case? Is it in the interest of justice? Usually the interest of justice thing, they unfortunately don't concern themselves with. It's really, do we think we can nail him to the wall for it? And that's usually what drives them. It helps their stats, get some promotions, things like that. And I know I just offended every DA, but they don't listen to our show anyway. And at the end of the day,
we're not too worried about what they think.
Well, if they're going to be honest about it, they'd have to admit, that's pretty much what we care about is our stats. Are we going to get it or not?
Yeah.
But the other thing too is it's very, very political. So, like, as an example, I was in one CCW training class because I needed to get a fresh certificate so I could get my Florida permit, which I still haven't done, unfortunately, because I got to get. Florida makes you get fingerprints from a police station, and like the closest one to me is forever away, and I can't get over there like during the hours that they will take fingerprints. But that's beside the point. So they go, well, let me tell you about this story. Guy breaks into a guy's home. Homeowner is home, grabs his shotgun, chases the guy outside of his home, shoots him in the back with a shotgun. Guy dies. What do you think happened? Think you got arrested?
Is this in Florida?
No, this is California. This is Anaheim Hills.
I'm assuming he got arrested, but I don't know. It depends on where he's at based on what you're telling me.
Not arrested at all.
Really? And he chased the dude outside and shot him in the back.
Problem is it's very political. And at the time,
cow.
The people weren't, thinking, hey, we got to go get people who do this kind of thing. And I think the guy was pretty well connected, and they knew that he was pretty well connected. So they didn't want to go after him. So
think about how crazy now, in general, I'm like a person defending themselves. And it sounds like he might've been stretching the defense thing there. Like in general, I want to lean towards
dude who's left your house in the back.
I know that's all. It's wrong. I'm not down with that.
Well, you can shoot someone in the back. People think that there's, if you shoot them in the back, it's because they run away. No, people can still shoot you, and you can shoot them in the back because they can hold a gun.
They can still turn around. Yeah,
absolutely. So that doesn't mean the threat has ended. However, if the guy has left the house and he's running away, that says to me, threat is gone. It's not imminent danger.
Yeah.
Again, but the guy got off. So because again, it's California, it's political. He's connected. All that.
Oh man, which think about all the other things that. Like really awful people do terrible things and get away with them. Like at the very least, we can maybe say this guy, he was wrong. And yet, he's amped up. He's still freaked out, feeling violated. I'm not saying it's right, but I understand that a little bit. But how many people just do wicked, terrible things and get away with it because of politics? And that really sucks.
I would believe that would be close to 99% of all politicians would do wicked and evil things and get away with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, trust me. I'm with you. So I had this is a side note, but I had to talk about freedom today. And I was in this meeting was in a reception place just talking. And this whole thing comes up about like just free living. And I'm giving this talk on why you should be able to defend yourself. And it was kind of awesome because these 20 somethings in Cleveland, inner city Cleveland, were like, yeah, man. I'm like, Freedom Nation grows everywhere we go.
I love it.
It's cool, man.
Yeah. So, that's it's one of those things that, man, should you have to shoot someone, it's a horrible situation. I don't care what, I know the whole gun culture is, I'm a badass. I got a gun. That's what I'm here to do. I'm going to protect myself, protect my family. I get it. Yeah, obviously, I'm not opposed to it. I'm just not a fan of killing someone. Obviously, I don't think anyone's a fan of it. At least, hopefully, they're not listeners of our show.
There are, hopefully not our listeners are. There is a small contingent of society that are fans of it. That's actually, read the book on killing. I can't remember the author. He gets into the stats of how like normal people don't want to hurt somebody else. And so he gets into defense and why you train, a lot of good stuff. But then he does talk about that tiny little faction of people that like, they just can't wait to kill somebody. He's like, these are what we're really afraid of. Watch out.
Yeah. And that's the unfortunate thing is, I mean, the guy did something bad. He misbehaved. You misbehave, there are consequences. Now, he didn't go into it thinking he's going to get shot. First of all, this is California, not Texas.
Yeah.
But he happened to pick a home where the homeowner had a security camera and a gun, and he paid for his mistake with his life. Yeah. And just like, yesterday, Kobe Bryant dying, you have no idea what the future holds. No one wakes up in the morning and says, today's the day I'm going to die. Yeah. If they did, they would live that last day different and try to avoid dying. And that's the thing. We don't know when our time is up. So number one, if you carry, always be prepared. Number two, always carry, right? Yeah. Always be prepared. And just know, man, if that thing goes down, if the bad thing goes down, the cops are not there to clear you. They're there to place blame on somebody. You want them to place blame on the other guys. So don't help them nail you to the wall.
Exactly right.
I watch a lot of Dateline and 2020 type shows. I get into that. And I'm telling you, almost everyone goes down because they talk to the cops. Almost every single person. Yeah. They're showing it at the trial, right? It's one of the reasons why myself, I'd be like, look, no, I'm not talking to cops. Or, if I was talking to cops, no, I'm not going to go down to the station. Absolutely not. No. Because I know you guys record things there. I know you also have the right to lie to me. No. Yeah. Did not happen.
Oh, yeah. How many things? Because we just talked too much. And they'll try to pressure you and make you think you have to. They'll use all kinds of threats. They'll act like they're going to arrest you if you don't talk. Like you just don't have to say anything. Just don't. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say my buddy Wayne. He was telling me his brother's a cop, and they're actually trained to be like, oh, hey, let's just go inside and talk. Right, go inside your house, right? Because they want to get in your house, and they can't go in there unless you invite them in.
No,
unless they got a warrant.
They're like vampires.
We had a cop who, and so I'm always acutely aware, right? So we had something went down across the street. At the time, we didn't know what it was. Cop knocks on my door at night. My dogs are just barking like crazy because anyone who comes up to the door, they just go off. And he's like, hey, mind if I come in and talk to you for a minute? My dogs are barking. I go, hold on a second. Let me put my dogs out. So I close the door, put my dogs outside. I come back and I open up the door. I do not let him in. Right? Yeah. I'm like, you ain't stepping foot in my house.
Yeah, don't let him in because then all bets are off once you've let him in.
No way
I would even, being as kind as possible, man, even if they're just trying to have a friendly conversation, they're on your property. And you, as I understand, you can politely ask them to leave. You say like, hey, I'm happy to be helpful, but if you don't have a warrant, then there's really no reason for you to be here. So we'll talk to you later. I got to go inside now. All of those kinds of things. I actually just interesting book I've been reading related to what you were mentioning before about going down to the station just to answer questions. I'm reading The Secrets of the FBI by Ronald Kessler.
Ooh.
Really interesting book. And he did some pretty significant research, and some of it's just kind of fun, like secret squirrel stuff, like, how they do entries and things like that. All that's really interesting. But he also goes into past directors, abuses of power, ways in which certain things were not allowed. And so it kept them from doing things that they should have been able to do. Really interesting. But they talk about the Richard Jewell case in here, which is the guy that found the bomb at at the Olympic Park. And then they ended up trying to put it on him. And he talks about they'd invited him in to just answer questions. Well, then the news story is starting to push this narrative that like, well, maybe this is the guy. Maybe he found it because he left it there. And this narrative starts kind of snowballing. And they have no reason to think of him as a suspect. But then all of a sudden, there's pressure to look at him as a suspect. And so they say like, well, now we probably have to read him his rights. And we're like, we've been talking to him for however long. Now we got to go in and interrupt it. And And essentially, like, that was part of why everything went wrong, is because this dude's just trying to be helpful. And then there's a narrative being pushed, and he's caught between a rock and a hard place. And then politics played in as to why. But that's a great book, by the way. That's not the only thing they're addressing in this book. We're really enjoying this. Ronald Kessler, The Secrets of the FBI, one of the more entertaining books I've read in the last, 6 months or so.
Sure. Yeah.
Really, really good. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's just, that's the thing. You don't have to prove your innocence. Unfortunately, that doesn't really mean that in real life, but don't help them prove you as the guilty guy. Yeah. It's almost always because people talked, man. Yeah. Almost always because they talked. Yeah. I mean, if you are in a shooting situation, like the guy who shot the church shooter in Texas, like, he immediately was talking about it, and I'm like, man, dude, I don't like that. No way is the guy going to get nailed by a cop. Could he get sued by the family? Sure, he could still get sued by the family. So everything he says, could come down. But here's the thing. You just don't want any of that out there. Yeah. So, like, if you or I were involved in a shooting, I guarantee you we would not talk about it here on the podcast. Guarantee. Because it's just going to hurt you. Anything you say is going to be used against you, either civilly or criminally, and you're best just to shut up, not say anything. Don't give people the fuel they need to light you on fire. Exactly right, man. Exactly right. Being safe, being smart, have a good lawyer that that you can talk to, all that kind of stuff makes a huge difference. And of course, all this comes back to train and be ready. And related to training, even on this, I know that at Lake Erie Arms, the virtual simulator we have, which is pretty nice. It's one of those where it's like CO2 in the Glock. So, I mean, you feel like you're shooting, all that kind of stuff, and it's video simulation. They have a simulation for that involves even what not to do. So, like, somebody's breaking in, but they don't come in, or somebody's doing this and that, like, to protect you legally. So, oh, wow, that would have been an easy shot and it was scary, but he hadn't actually, breached the barrier. There's all this kind of stuff. But then part of the simulation is talking to the cop. So they have a simulation for how you answer questions when the cops talk to you later, and or don't answer questions is what is usually better. Really, that's worth doing one of those, by the way. There's a reason to come to Lake Erie Arms right there, man. Make the trip out. We'll go through the various scenarios, get you as real world trained as possible. I love it, man. I love it. In fact, why don't you give them their full props right now? Yeah, actually, I'll even mention the simulator there specifically. Lake Erie Arms, obviously, here on Ohio, right on the lake. Wonderful selection, whether you're going to build your next Glock, build your next AR, or whether you're going to buy something outright. We've got all the cool guns. We've got all the old guns. We've got everything, and it's amazing. But that simulator does not get the attention that it really needs. First, you can come in and some of the classes, you can actually do one-on-one training with our specialist who has trained SWAT all in the Ohio area, actually, and internationally. He's trained some of the special forces in Afghanistan that were backing our troops up. Really interesting dude. But you can go in, do the training, do the simulation, or you could actually do like a night out with your buddies where you can rent the simulator for the evening, have an enjoyable time while getting trained. Highly recommend it. Very least, though, check out learms.net. That's learms.net. Learn about what we got going on because it's just kind of awesome. And that's what we got to say about that. Cool. And we'll be back next week, guys, and we'll have pretty soon, maybe the next topic is going to be on top tactical gloves. Yeah. Because I know we actually had a request for that. We had a request. We're going to get to it. We're just, this came up over the weekend. I'm like, man, I want to talk about this. Yeah, buddy. I'm glad we talked about this, man. Gets us thinking in the right direction. Well, hey, thanks very much, everybody. Good to be around here today. All right, guys. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.
You've been listening to the From Concealment Podcast with Pete Mitchell and Dan Sams. Be sure to tune in next week for more gun talk. Also, check out the From Concealment website for more shooting-related goodness at FromConcealment.com.